Why 99% of people stay average, and how to escape the trap. Written and published by Echo Elevate. Introduction. Most people never realize how close they are to a better life. That simple truth is the reason this book exists. Every day, millions of people wake up, follow the same routine, and go to bed, feeling the same frustration. They know they could do more. They know they could be more. Yet something keeps them in place. Something holds them in the familiar. This invisible force is what I call the trap of average. This book is about escaping that trap. You may feel stuck. You may feel behind. Or you may feel like you have potential you have never fully used. If so, you are not alone. 99% of people live far below their true ability, but not because they lack talent, not because they lack opportunity. They stay average because they follow patterns they never learned to question. In this book, we will question those patterns. We will look at the habits, beliefs, and choices that quietly shape your life. We will expose the forces that keep most people in the same place year after year. And more importantly, we will uncover the simple steps that help you rise above them. This is not a book of complicated ideas. It is a guide you can listen to, understand, and apply right away. Each chapter is built with clear, direct lessons. Each idea is designed to turn confusion into clarity, and hesitation into action. The goal is not to overwhelm you. The goal is to move you forward. As you listen, you will learn why people settle for less. You will learn how fear, comfort, and old beliefs quietly limit your progress. You will discover how to rebuild your standards, strengthen your mindset, and take control of your choices. And you will see that extraordinary results come from simple, consistent steps. This journey is not about perfection. It is about improvement. It is about breaking the cycle that keeps most people stuck. It is about choosing a life that reflects your real potential. By the end of this book, you will see yourself differently. You will think differently. And if you apply the lessons, you will live differently. So take a breath, set your focus, and step with me into a new way of thinking. This is the moment you begin to rise above average. This is the moment you escape the trap. Chapter 1. The Trap of Average. Most people do not fall into the trap of average in one moment. They slide into it slowly. It happens in quiet decisions. It happens in routines that feel normal. And it happens long before they are aware of it. Imagine a young student on the first day of school. He walks into class full of excitement. He believes he can learn anything. He raises his hand often. He tries. He explores. But after a few months he starts to notice something. The other kids laugh when someone answers wrong. The teacher praises the top students. The room begins to feel like a place where mistakes cost too much. So he stops raising his hand. He plays it safe. He chooses the comfortable path. This is how average begins. Not with failure, but with fear, with caution, with the habit of avoiding discomfort. By the time he grows up, he has mastered this pattern. He avoids risks. He avoids anything that might expose weakness. He settles for what is familiar, and without realizing it, he becomes trapped. The trap of average is powerful because it feels harmless. It does not shout. It does not threaten. It whispers. It says, "Stay where you are." It says, "You are doing fine." It says, "Do not push too hard." These messages sound soft, but they create a life that never changes. To understand the trap, we must see where it lives. It lives in daily routines. It lives in choices made without intention. It lives in the belief that tomorrow will be different, even when nothing different is done today. Think about the routine of the average adult. They wake up tired. They rush through the morning. They go to work counting hours until the day ends. They come home, scroll through their phone and watch something to escape. Then they sleep, and they repeat the same cycle again. This pattern feels normal, but it slowly takes away energy, purpose, and possibility. The trap also hides in expectations set by the world around us. Most people grow up hearing the same advice. Be realistic. Be careful. Do not dream too big. These words sound protective, but they shape a mindset that fears growth. People begin to believe that success is rare, so they stop aiming high. They settle for the same goals everyone else has. They choose comfort because comfort looks safe. But comfort is not safe. Comfort is a cage with soft walls. Let me share a simple story. A young employee joins a company with big hopes. He wants to improve himself. He wants to move up. But he notices something. The older employees do only what they must. They avoid new challenges. They avoid new skills. They say, just do enough to get by. At first he disagrees. Then he gets used to the environment. And soon, without seeing it, he adopts the same behavior. He adjusts to the average around him. This is how the trap spreads. Not through intention, but through influence. People become a reflection of the environment that surrounds them. The trap is also fueled by a powerful illusion. The illusion that there will always be more time. People say, I will start later. I will try next year. I will improve when things settle down. But an entire decade can pass while someone waits for the perfect moment. In the end, they realize the moment never arrives. The delay becomes a lifestyle. To escape the trap of average, we first have to see it clearly. We have to admit that our current patterns shape our future more than our dreams do. We have to accept that average is not a label. It is a habit. It is the habit of choosing what feels easy instead of what leads to growth. Awareness is the first key. Once you recognize the trap, you can challenge it. You can question your routines. You can question your choices. You can ask yourself simple but powerful questions. Is this action moving me forward? Is this behavior aligned with who I want to be? Am I choosing comfort or progress? The moment you begin to ask these questions, the trap begins to lose power. It cannot survive in the light of awareness. There is one more truth you must accept. Average is crowded. Most people choose the familiar path. They choose ease over excellence. They choose distraction over discipline. But the moment you step away from average, the world opens up. You enter a space where there is less competition. You enter a path where effort pays high rewards. You enter a life that reflects your real potential. This book will guide you deeper into that path. You will learn how to break the habits that keep you stuck. You will learn how to build the mindset that leads to growth. And you will learn how to create a life that does not rely on luck or chance. But everything begins here, with understanding the trap, with seeing how it works, with seeing how it quietly grows in daily life. Once you recognize it, you can rise above it. You can step into a new direction with clarity and strength. The trap of average is real, but so is your power to escape it. This chapter is your first step. The next step begins when you turn the page. Chapter 2. Comfort, the silent enemy. Comfort is one of the most deceptive forces in life. It feels warm. It feels safe. It feels harmless. But comfort does not stay in one place. It grows. It spreads. And slowly, it turns from a simple preference into a powerful barrier. Most people never notice when comfort becomes their enemy. It happens quietly, like a soft fog that settles over the mind. One small decision leads to another, then another. Soon the person is living a life built around avoiding discomfort instead of chasing growth. Let's look at a simple story. A young woman starts a new job. She wants to impress her team. She wants to learn. She wants to challenge herself. During the first week, she asks questions, explores new tasks, and takes bold steps. But as weeks pass, something changes. She learns the routine. She masters the basics. Her work becomes predictable. Her supervisor says, "You are doing fine." Her co-workers say, "Relax. Do not work too hard." At first, she continues to push herself. But comfort begins to whisper, "You already know enough. You do not need to stretch today. You can try again later." Months pass. She stops pushing. She stops growing. And she begins to fade into the background, one comfortable day at a time. This is how comfort works. Not through fear, not through failure, but through ease. It gives a sense of peace while taking away progress. Most people think the opposite of comfort is pain, but that is not true. The opposite of comfort is growth. Growth requires movement. Growth requires effort. Growth requires stepping into moments that are not predictable. Comfort is the enemy, because it trains you to stay the same. It teaches your mind to choose the easiest option. It traps your potential in routines that never challenge you. Think about everyday life. Comfort whispers when you hit the snooze button. Comfort whispers when you delay a task. Comfort whispers when you avoid a difficult conversation. Comfort whispers when you settle for the job you do not like. Each small moment seems harmless, but each moment shapes identity, and identity shapes destiny. The most dangerous part of comfort is not what it gives. It is what it prevents. It prevents courage. It prevents learning. It prevents the excitement of discovering what you are capable of. People often say, "I will change when I have more motivation." But motivation does not appear in comfort. Motivation grows in action. When you move, when you try, when you challenge yourself, that is when motivation expands. There is a simple real-world example. Imagine two people joining a gym. The first person starts slow. He does the easiest exercises. He avoids anything that feels tiring. He never pushes beyond his comfort zone. After a few weeks he quits. He thinks the gym did not work for him. The second person starts with small manageable steps, but pushes slightly beyond comfort each time. One more minute. One more set. One more challenge. After a few weeks he feels stronger. After a few months he sees real changes. The difference is not talent. The difference is the relationship with discomfort. Growth is built on small acts of resistance. Not resistance against life, but resistance against the pull of comfort. Comfort says, "Stay still." Growth says, "Move forward." Comfort says, "Do what is easy." Growth says, "Do what is necessary." Comfort says, "You have time." Growth says, "Start now." To escape the trap of comfort, you must train yourself to lean toward challenge, not recklessly, not in a way that harms you, but in a way that stretches you beyond yesterday's limits. One effective method is what I call micro-discomfort. Micro-discomfort is the practice of choosing one small action each day that feels slightly uncomfortable but is good for your growth. It can be speaking up in a meeting. It can be learning a new skill. It can be turning off distractions for one focused hour. It can be walking instead of scrolling. These choices are small but they build strength over time. Another method is to question your routine. Ask yourself simple questions. Is this habit helping me grow? Is this decision making me stronger? Am I choosing comfort or progress? These questions pull back the curtain. They reveal the truth behind daily choices. They help you see comfort for what it truly is, an invisible cage. You must remember this. Comfort is not your friend. Comfort does not care about your potential. Comfort does not care about your future. Comfort only cares that you stay where you are. But you were not built to stay the same. You were built to rise. You were built to improve. You were built to explore the edges of your ability. When you step beyond comfort, even in small ways, your life begins to expand. Your confidence grows. Your skills grow. Your opportunities grow. And slowly the silent enemy loses its hold. You do not need to destroy comfort. You only need to stop worshipping it. Use it when it is necessary. Enjoy it when it is earned. But never let it become the place where your dreams go to sleep. Comfort feels safe, but growth feels alive. And life rewards those who choose alive over safe. This chapter is your invitation to step into that life. A life just outside your comfort zone. A life where potential becomes progress. A life where the silent enemy loses power the moment you decide to rise. Chapter 3. The Illusion of Time. Time is the most powerful force in your life, yet it is also the most misunderstood. People talk about it as if it is endless. They say, "I will do it later. I will start soon. I have plenty of time." These phrases feel harmless, but they create one of the biggest traps a person can fall into. This is the illusion of time. The illusion of time makes you believe that tomorrow will always be there. It makes you believe you can delay your goals without a cost. It gives you the false comfort that your future is guaranteed. But the reality is simple. Time is not guaranteed. Time is not endless. Time is not waiting for you. Think about this. You have met people who talk about their dreams for years yet never begin. They say they want to start a business. They say they want to improve their health. They say they want to learn a new skill. But year after year, nothing changes. They confuse talking about change with taking action. And they believe they can always begin when the time is right. This is how time deceives us. Not by disappearing suddenly, but by giving the impression that there is always more. Let me share a simple story. A man decides he wants to write a book. He is excited. He has ideas. He has passion. But he thinks, "I will start when work slows down." Work never slows down. He says, "I will start when I feel inspired." Inspiration never arrives. He says, "I will start next month." Next month becomes next year. He grows older. He becomes busier. He waits for a perfect moment that never comes. And eventually the book remains unwritten. Not because he lacked skill. Not because he lacked opportunity. But because he trusted the illusion that time was always available. The truth is different. Time is not something you use later. Time is something you lose every day. One of the strongest illusions of time comes from routine. When each day looks the same, you feel like life is stable. The sameness creates a sense of safety. You think, nothing is changing, so I have time. But while the days feel the same, you are not the same. Your energy changes. Your opportunities change. Your responsibilities change. And slowly, the window for certain dreams begins to close. You do not notice this in the moment. You notice it only when you look back and realize that 5 years felt like 5 weeks. Another powerful illusion is the belief that you need more time before you start. Many people wait because they think they are not ready. They want more knowledge. They want more confidence. They want better conditions. But time does not make you ready. Action makes you ready. People say, "I need to prepare first." Preparation is important, But too much preparation becomes procrastination in disguise. This is why people who start early often win. They learn by doing. They gain experience while others are still planning. They build momentum while others are waiting for the perfect opening. There is a real-world example that shows this clearly. Two friends plan to learn digital design. The first friend waits. He wants better equipment. He wants more free time. He wants a detailed plan. Months pass. Nothing happens. The second friend starts with what he has. He practices 20 minutes a day. He makes mistakes. He learns from them. He improves slowly. After a few months he has a portfolio. After a year, he has clients. The difference: one trusted the illusion of time. The other trusted action. You must understand something important. Time is not the real barrier. The real barrier is the story you tell yourself about time. When you say, "I will do it someday," you are not talking about the future. You are postponing your life. You are pushing your growth into a space that does not exist. Someday is not a date. It is a trap. The illusion of time is strongest when life feels comfortable. Comfort makes you believe that nothing urgent needs your attention. Comfort convinces you that things can stay the same a little longer. But small delays eventually build big regrets. You may think you need more time before you begin, but what you really need is more courage to start now. Most breakthroughs do not come from perfect timing. They come from imperfect action. To break the illusion of time, shift your question. Stop asking, "When should I start?" Begin asking, "What can I start today?" This simple shift changes everything. It brings you into the present moment. It directs your focus to action instead of excuses. It frees you from waiting for a perfect future that may never arrive. You can also break the illusion by creating urgency rooted in purpose. Tell yourself, if it matters, it starts now. Even a small step counts. A single page written, a short workout completed, a new skill practiced for 10 minutes. These small steps carry more power than 1,000 perfect plans. You must remember this truth. Time does not slow down for you. Time does not pause when you hesitate. Time does not stretch itself to fit your convenience. It moves forward whether you use it or not. And the people who rise above average are the ones who treat time as something precious, not something endless. They act today. They do not wait for motivation. They do not wait for certainty. They use the time they have because they understand the cost of delay. The illusion of time fades the moment you choose action, the moment you stop waiting, the moment you realize that later is a disguise that hides opportunities. Your life does not change in the future. It changes in the present. It changes in the choices you make today. Break the illusion. Use your time with intention, and you will begin to live a life that moves forward instead of a life that waits. Chapter 4. Fear of failure and fear of judgment. Fear shapes more decisions than logic ever will. It changes the way people act. It changes the way they think, and often it changes the direction of their entire life. Among all fears, two stand above the rest: the fear of failure and the fear of judgment. These two fears hold more people back than any lack of talent or opportunity. They create invisible boundaries. They shrink ambition. They silence ideas. And they convince people to stay in the same place even when they want more. To understand their power, we must see how these fears take root. Imagine a young girl who loves painting. She fills pages with color and imagination. She paints without hesitation. But one day she shows her work to an older cousin. Instead of encouragement, she gets criticism. The cousin laughs and says, "This looks messy." At first she shrugs it off, but something inside her changes. A seed is planted. A small voice begins to ask, what if people laugh again? What if I am not good enough? She still paints, but not as boldly. She becomes cautious. She becomes careful. And soon she hides her work instead of sharing it. This is how fear begins, with a moment that feels small but leaves a mark. Fear of failure grows when people believe mistakes define them. Fear of judgment grows when people believe approval determines their worth. Both fears come from the same source: the desire to be accepted, the desire to avoid shame, the desire to stay safe. But safety has a cost. It keeps you small. Think about how many decisions are shaped by fear. A person does not apply for a job because they fear rejection. Another hides their business idea because they fear criticism. Someone avoids learning a new skill because they fear looking foolish. The fear may feel protective, but it is actually restrictive. It limits experience. It limits potential. It limits life. Consider a real-world example. Two co-workers are given a chance to lead a new project. The first accepts immediately. He knows he might fail, but he is willing to learn. The second declines. He worries about being judged if he makes mistakes. Months later, the first co-worker develops new skills, earns respect, and grows in confidence. The second stays in the same role, telling himself he did not want the extra pressure. But inside he knows the truth. He let fear choose for him. Fear can disguise itself as logic. It whispers excuses like I am not ready, or it is not the right time, or I will start later. But behind these excuses, fear sits quietly, controlling the decision. There is something important you must understand. Fear of failure does not stop failure. It stops progress. Failure is normal. Failure is feedback. Failure is part of learning. But fear of failure forces people to stay where failure cannot reach them. And if failure cannot reach them, growth cannot either. Fear of judgment works the same way. People worry about being watched. They worry about being misunderstood. They worry about being talked about. But the truth is simple. Most people are too focused on their own lives to think about you for more than a moment. Judgment feels big in your mind, but it is small in reality. There is a powerful story that shows this clearly. A man attends a public speaking class. He is terrified. His hands shake. His voice trembles. He thinks everyone is judging him. But after class, a fellow student approaches him and says, "I was nervous too. I could barely breathe before my turn." Another student says, "I thought you were confident. I wish I spoke like that." In that moment he realizes something important. Everyone was worried about themselves. No one was judging him as harshly as he judged himself. This is the truth about judgment. Most of it happens inside your own head. To rise above these fears, you must shift the meaning you give to them. Instead of seeing fear as a warning, see it as a signal that you are stepping into new territory, a signal that you are growing, a signal that you are doing something meaningful. When fear appears, it means you are moving towards something important. If it did not matter, you would not feel fear. One powerful technique to weaken fear is to ask a simple question: what is the worst that can happen? Most of the time, the answer is small. A mistake, a moment of discomfort, a lesson learned. But what is the best that can happen? Growth, opportunity, confidence, transformation. When you compare the two, you see that fear exaggerates the risk and hides the reward. Another strategy is exposure in small steps. Take on challenges that stretch you just slightly. Speak up once in a meeting. Share one idea with a friend. Learn one new skill in private before sharing it publicly. These small steps build strength. They build courage. And over time, they rewire your relationship with fear. You must also understand that failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is a stage of success. Every skill you master requires mistakes. Every dream you chase requires risk. Every part of your growth requires stepping into situations where you may not perform perfectly. And judgment. Judgment loses power when you focus on your mission. When your purpose becomes bigger than your fear, the fear begins to shrink. The people who rise above average are not fearless. They simply choose growth over fear. They act even when they doubt themselves. They speak even when their voice shakes. They try even when they might fail. Fear will always visit you, but it does not have to lead you. You can acknowledge it, breathe through it and move anyway. The moment you accept this, something powerful happens. Your world expands. Your confidence grows. Your progress accelerates. And the fears that once controlled you become stepping stones instead of barriers. This chapter is your reminder that failure will not break you. Judgment will not define you. Fear is not your enemy unless you surrender to it. You are stronger than your hesitation. You are bigger than your doubt. And every step you take despite fear brings you closer to the life you want. Choose growth. Choose courage. Choose action. Fear may walk beside you, but it does not get to steer your path. Chapter 5. Low standards. Create a low life. A person's life is built on their standards, not their wishes, not their dreams, not their promises. Their standards. What they accept, what they tolerate, what they decide is good enough. These choices shape everything. Low standards do not appear suddenly. They develop slowly, often without notice. They grow one compromise at a time, one excuse at a time, one "I will try tomorrow" at a time. And once low standards take root, they begin to shape a low-quality life. Think about your daily habits. Your standards decide how you treat your body. Your standards decide how you speak to yourself. Your standards decide how you react when things get hard. Your standards decide how much effort you give to your work and your goals. When standards are low, effort is low. And when effort is low, results are low. Imagine a man who wants to get in shape. He sets a goal, buys new clothes, and feels motivated. But when the alarm rings early in the morning, he says, "Just today, I will sleep a little more." The next day he says the same thing. Soon, skipping workouts becomes normal. It becomes part of his identity. Not because he lacked the ability, but because he accepted a lower standard for himself. He created a habit built on convenience, not commitment. Low standards feel small in the moment, but they create long-term consequences. Think about your finances. Some people accept being in constant debt. They accept spending more than they earn. They accept short-term pleasure over long-term security. At first, it feels manageable. A small loan, a small credit purchase, a small delay in saving. But these small choices stack up. Before they know it, they feel trapped, and they blame circumstances, when in reality, the root problem was a set of standards that never protected them. Now think about relationships. Some people stay around those who bring stress, negativity, or disrespect because they believe that this is just how people are. They accept treatment that drains their energy. They accept conversations that lower their confidence. They accept the presence of people who do not support their growth. Over time, these low standards shape their emotional world. They begin to think low-quality interactions are normal, and this becomes their life. Your standards decide who you allow into your space. They decide what behavior you tolerate. They decide how much respect you expect for yourself. Low standards in relationships always lead to frustration. High standards lead to connection, clarity, and peace. One of the clearest examples of low standards comes from work. Look around any workplace. You will find two types of people. The first group does the minimum. They arrive late. They leave early. They avoid responsibility. They do just enough to stay employed. Their standard is survival. The second group takes pride in their work. They show effort even when no one is watching. They grow their skills. They take initiative. They do not rely on motivation. They rely on standards. Their standard is excellence. Over time, the difference becomes obvious. The person with low standards stays in the same position, year after year. The person with high standards becomes valuable, not because of luck, not because of opportunity, but because their actions are shaped by a higher level of expectation. Standards are powerful because they shape your identity. When you raise your standards, you raise your identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who deserves more. You begin to act like someone who can achieve more. You begin to demand more from your environment and from your future. Low standards protect comfort. High standards protect your potential. Here is a simple truth. Your standards are loud. Even when you say nothing, your habits show them. Your energy shows them. Your results show them. And the world responds to those standards. People who hold high standards attract better opportunities, not because the world is fair, but because consistency builds trust. When people know you maintain a high standard, they rely on you, they respect you, they believe in you. Your life begins to rise. But raising standards is not about perfection. It is about consistency. It is about no longer accepting the behaviors that once held you back. It is about drawing a clear line between who you were and who you are becoming. You raise your standards by making one firm decision at a time. I do not skip commitments. I do not speak to myself with disrespect. I do not stay in environments that harm my growth. I do not delay what matters. I finish what I start. These statements are simple but powerful. Once you adopt them, your choices change automatically. You must also understand that low standards often hide behind excuses. I am tired. I am busy. I will do better later. These lines sound reasonable, but they quietly build a life filled with limitations. When you hold yourself to higher standards, these excuses lose strength. You begin to rise above them. Think about someone who wants to learn a new skill. If they have low standards, they practice only when it feels easy. If they have high standards, they practice even when they feel uncomfortable. The difference compounds over time. After 6 months, the person with low standards stays at the same level. The person with high standards becomes capable, confident, and ready for new opportunities. Raising your standards is not an overnight transformation. It is a daily decision. It is choosing the action that aligns with your potential, not your excuses. It is choosing discipline over comfort. It is choosing effort when you feel tired. It is choosing responsibility when you want to hide. Each decision strengthens you. Your life rises to the level of your standards. If your standards remain low, life remains low. But if your standards rise, everything else rises with them. Your confidence grows. Your opportunities grow. Your relationships grow. Your sense of purpose grows. This chapter is your reminder that standards are not small things. They are the foundation of everything you create. Raise your standards, and you raise your life. Choose higher expectations for yourself, and a higher future begins to move toward you. Chapter 6. The Identity Loop. Every action you take is a vote for the person you believe you are. This is the hidden truth behind human behavior. People think they act based on goals, plans, or motivation, but in reality, they act based on identity. Identity shapes choices, choices shape habits, habits shape results, and results shape identity again. This cycle is what I call the identity loop. Most people never notice this loop, because it runs quietly in the background. They think their struggles come from a lack of discipline or lack of time, but often the real problem is much deeper. They are trying to chase a new life, while holding on to an old identity. Imagine someone who wants to become healthy. They set goals. They buy equipment. They make plans. But inside they still see themselves as someone who always quits. They see themselves as someone who struggles with discipline. They see themselves as someone who is not athletic. So every time they try to change, the old identity pulls them back. They skip a workout and say, "This is just who I am." They eat poorly and say, "I always fail at this." The identity becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. This is the power of the identity loop. Your identity creates your behavior. Your behavior reinforces your identity, and the loop continues. To break the loop, you must understand how it starts. Identity forms from three main sources: stories, patterns, and experiences. First, stories. These are the things you tell yourself. I am shy. I am bad with money. I am unlucky. I cannot finish things. These statements may feel harmless, but your brain treats them as instructions. If you repeat a story long enough, you begin to act in a way that matches it. Second, patterns. These are the things you repeatedly do. If you procrastinate often, you develop the identity of a procrastinator. If you always take the easy path, you develop the identity of someone who avoids challenge. Patterns build identity one behavior at a time. Third, experiences. A single mistake in childhood can shape the belief, "I am not good enough." A single success can create the belief, "I can do this." Experiences plant seeds, and if they are repeated, they grow into identity. Now let me tell you a simple story. A man grows up in a family where everyone struggles financially. He hears his parents say, "People like us never get ahead." He watches his relatives work hard and still stay stuck. Eventually he adopts the identity of someone who is meant to live an average life. Even when he gets opportunities, he doubts himself. Even when he tries something new, he pulls back quickly. Not because he lacks potential, but because his identity tells him, success is not for you. Years later he learns a new skill and starts earning more money, but he still feels uncomfortable with the idea of wealth. He spends too much. He avoids saving. He sabotages progress. Why? Because his results changed, but his identity did not. He is stuck in the loop. The identity loop keeps people average because it quietly limits what they believe they are allowed to do. If you see yourself as average, you will choose average actions. If you see yourself as weak, you will avoid strong decisions. If you see yourself as incapable, you will turn away from challenges that could help you grow. This is why traditional self-help advice fails. It tells you to set goals. It tells you to create plans, but it does not help you become the kind of person who can follow them. Real change begins when you shift identity, not when you create bigger goals. To break the identity loop, you must become intentional about your self-image. Here are 3 ways to start reshaping identity. First, adopt identity-based statements, not vague affirmations, but clear commitments. I am someone who keeps promises to myself. I am someone who shows up even when it is hard. I am someone who chooses growth over comfort. These statements guide your behavior because your mind wants congruence. It wants your actions to match your identity. Second, anchor your identity in action, not words. Identity shifts through evidence. A single workout is evidence. Finishing a task is evidence. Reading one page is evidence. Small actions begin to rewrite the inner story. You do not need big victories. You need small wins that build trust in yourself. Third, remove identity limits created by your past. Your past is not a prediction. It is a memory. Many people believe they must be consistent with yesterday's version of themselves. But you owe nothing to your old identity. You are allowed to evolve. There is another story that illustrates this clearly. A woman believes she is terrible at public speaking because she once froze in front of a class. For years she avoids opportunities to speak. Then one day she joins a small workshop. She forces herself to participate. Her voice shakes, but she completes her first talk. She does it again the next week, and again the week after. After a few months she speaks clearly, confidently and with purpose. At this point her identity has shifted. She no longer says I am bad at speaking. She says I am someone who improves with practice. This one shift unlocks doors she once feared to open. Identity is not fixed. It is fluid. It can rise or fall based on the choices you make daily. The identity loop becomes your enemy when you let old beliefs dictate your future. But it becomes your greatest strength when you actively shape it. When you decide who you want to be. When you prove it to yourself through consistent action. When you create patterns that build confidence instead of doubt. Average people let their past identity define them. Extraordinary people build a new identity through action. This chapter is your invitation to become the architect of your identity. Break the old loop. Create a new one. See yourself as someone capable of growth. Behave like someone who is rising. And soon your results will match the person you choose to become. Your life follows your identity. When you change the story about who you are, you change the story about what is possible. Chapter 7. The Discipline Gap. Most people believe success is about talent. Some think it is about opportunity. Others think it comes from luck, timing, or connections. But when you study the lives of people who rise above average, you discover a different truth. The real separator is discipline. Discipline is the gap between who you are and who you want to be. It is the bridge between intention and action, between planning and progress, between dreams and results. This gap is not visible on the surface, but it appears in every choice you make, and it explains why so many people stay stuck despite having goals. To understand the discipline gap, consider this simple idea. Most people know what they should do. They know they should exercise. They know they should save money. They know they should work on their goals. They know they should stop wasting time. Knowing is not the problem. Doing is the problem. The discipline gap is the distance between knowing and doing. Let's look at a story that shows this clearly. A young man wants to learn programming because he dreams of changing his career. He buys courses. He watches tutorials. He creates a schedule. But when evening arrives, he tells himself he is too tired. He tells himself he will start tomorrow. Tomorrow turns into next week. Next week turns into next month. And a year later, he is exactly where he started. His intention was strong. His plan was clear. But his discipline was weak. He fell into the discipline gap. Now imagine another person with the same goal. She does not feel inspired every day. She does not have perfect conditions. But she sits down for 20 minutes each night. Even when she feels tired. Even when it is inconvenient. At first her progress is slow. But after a few months she builds skill. After a year, she becomes capable of taking on real projects. Her life changes, not because she was smarter, not because she had more time, but because she built discipline. This is the power of the discipline gap. The gap is not closed by desire. It is closed by consistency. Many people overestimate motivation and underestimate discipline. Motivation is emotional. It rises and falls. Discipline is structural. It stays steady when emotion does not. When motivation fails, discipline carries you forward. Think about how children learn to brush their teeth. They do not feel motivated. They do it because it becomes a habit, because their parents ask them repeatedly, because the identity forms early. This is what I do every day. That is discipline in its simplest form. Routine, repetition, identity. Adults forget this lesson. They believe they need to feel ready. They wait for the perfect moment. They wait for the perfect mood. But discipline does not rely on mood. It relies on commitment. One of the biggest barriers in the discipline gap is emotional resistance. People avoid simple actions because they do not feel like doing them. But feelings are unreliable partners in a journey of growth. If you follow your feelings, you stay in your comfort zone. If you follow your standards, you grow. You must learn to act regardless of how you feel. This does not mean ignoring your emotions. It means not letting temporary emotions dictate long-term decisions. A clear example can be seen in athletes. Professionals train even on days when they feel drained. They train when they are sore. They train when it rains or when motivation disappears. That discipline builds skill. Skill builds confidence. Confidence builds results. This cycle is the opposite of the discipline gap. It is the discipline loop. Another barrier is lack of structure. Without structure, even the most motivated person becomes inconsistent. Structure makes discipline easier. It removes decision fatigue. It guides your actions. It creates clarity. Imagine two people who want to write a book. The first writes whenever inspiration comes. Weeks pass without progress. Months pass without pages. Eventually, the dream fades. The second person sets a simple structure. Write for 20 minutes every morning. It does not matter if the writing is good or bad. The only rule is to show up. After a few months, the book begins to take shape. Not from talent, from structure, from discipline. To close the discipline gap, you need practical strategies that support consistent action. Here are 3 powerful ones. First, lower the activation barrier. Make the starting point easy. If you want to exercise, put your clothes where you can see them. If you want to read, place the book next to your bed. If you want to build a skill, remove distractions before you begin. Start small. Start simple. Make the beginning effortless. Second, attach discipline to identity. Identity drives behavior. Tell yourself, I am someone who follows through. I am someone who keeps promises to myself. I am someone who acts even when it is hard. Your brain begins to align your choices with your identity. Third, measure consistency, not intensity. Doing something small every day beats doing something big. Once a month, 10 minutes of practice daily is more powerful than 1 hour once a week. Small consistent action builds momentum. Momentum builds habits. Habits build discipline. We must also talk about something uncomfortable but true. The discipline gap widens when you lie to yourself. When you say, I will start tomorrow, knowing you will not. When you say, I do not have time, while scrolling your phone. When you say, I cannot do this, without trying. These lies become part of your identity. To close the discipline gap, you must replace self-deception with honesty. Honesty creates clarity. Clarity creates responsibility. Responsibility creates discipline. The people who rise above average do not rely on willpower alone. They design their life to support disciplined action. They remove distractions. They protect their focus. They surround themselves with structure. They build environments that encourage progress. And something amazing happens. The more disciplined they become, the less effort discipline requires. It becomes natural. It becomes automatic. It becomes part of who they are. The discipline gap explains why talent alone is not enough. It explains why some people with potential never move forward. It explains why others with ordinary ability achieve extraordinary results. Discipline is the great equalizer. This chapter is your reminder that discipline is not something you are born with. It is something you build. One action at a time. One promise kept at a time. One day of consistency at a time. Close the discipline gap, and your life will begin to rise. Not through sudden transformation, but through steady, reliable progress. That is how you separate yourself from the average. That is how you build the life you want. One disciplined step forward, every single day. Chapter 8. The Environment Effect. Your environment shapes you more than you realize. It influences how you think. It influences how you feel. And it influences what you believe is possible for your life. Most people underestimate this power. They assume their choices come from willpower alone. But the truth is different. Your environment quietly trains your behavior every single day. Think about this. A seed can only grow if the soil supports it. If the soil is dry and toxic, the seed struggles no matter how strong it is. People are the same. Potential grows or dies depending on the environment around it. Let's begin with a simple story. A young man dreams of becoming a musician. He practices whenever he can. He writes songs in his notebook. But the people around him do not take his dream seriously. His friends joke about it. His family tells him to focus on something practical. Every time he shares his ideas, he feels judged. Soon he practices less. He writes less. He loses confidence. Not because the dream was impossible, but because the environment weakened his belief. Now imagine the same young man in a different environment. He spends time with people who encourage creativity. They ask about his music. They support his work. He sees others pursuing their own goals. This inspires him. It normalizes ambition. It makes growth feel achievable. In this environment, his confidence rises instead of shrinking. He begins to improve faster. He takes bold steps. His dream gains momentum. The difference between these two stories is not talent. It is environment. Your environment is not just where you live. It is everything you expose yourself to. Your home, your workplace, your friends, your conversations, your habits, your digital world. Your environment is any space that influences your thinking or behavior. This is why two people with the same abilities can end up with completely different lives. One is surrounded by people who encourage growth. The other is surrounded by people who reinforce average behavior. Environment becomes the deciding factor. You see this clearly in groups of friends. When you spend time with people who complain, you begin to complain. When you spend time with people who take no risks, you avoid taking risks. When you spend time with people who settle, you settle too. Not because you want to, but because the environment normalizes it. The mind adapts to whatever it sees repeatedly. If you surround yourself with negativity, your thoughts become negative. If you surround yourself with laziness, your actions become lazy. If you surround yourself with excellence, your standards rise automatically. Let's look at another real-world example. Two employees start the same job on the same day. The first joins a team where people are disengaged. They avoid responsibility. They do the minimum. They criticize the company. The employee slowly adopts the same habits. He stops caring. His growth stops. The second employee joins a team where people push themselves. They take pride in their work. They look for ways to grow. They support each other. This employee rises with them. He becomes more confident. He becomes more capable. His environment elevates him. This shows an important truth. Your environment will either raise your life or lower it. The environment effect also appears in your physical space. Clutter drains focus. Noise drains energy. Disorder creates stress. A chaotic space leads to chaotic thinking. Meanwhile, a clean space supports clarity. A quiet space supports focus. A structured space supports discipline. This is why small changes like organizing your desk or creating a dedicated area for your goals can dramatically improve your consistency. But the strongest part of your environment is the people you choose to keep around you. People influence your confidence, your expectations, and your standards. If you surround yourself with individuals who are stuck, you begin to feel stuck too. If you surround yourself with individuals who strive for more, your ambition grows naturally. There is a saying, you become the average of the people you spend the most time with. This is not just a quote. It is a psychological reality. Humans mirror the behavior, beliefs, and emotions of those around them. If the people in your circle expect little from themselves, you will expect little from yourself. If they push themselves to grow, you will feel inspired to grow. So the question becomes, is your environment helping you rise or pulling you down? To reshape your environment, you do not need dramatic changes. You need intentional adjustments. First, curate your influences. Limit the voices that drain your energy. Increase the voices that inspire you. This includes the content you consume, the conversations you allow, and the people you trust. Second, create spaces that support the behavior you want. If you want to read more, keep books visible. If you want to learn a skill, keep your tools ready. If you want to stay focused, remove distractions from your space. Your environment should make good habits easy, not difficult. Third, choose your circle with purpose. Spend more time with people who challenge you, people who think big, people who take responsibility, people who live with standards. If you cannot change your circle immediately, expand it gradually. Podcasts, books, and online communities can serve as temporary mentors. Fourth, limit environments that reinforce the identity you want to leave behind. If certain places or people bring out the worst version of you, reduce your exposure. You do not need to cut ties dramatically, but you can shift how often you engage. Remember this: environment is stronger than willpower. You cannot out-discipline a toxic environment. You cannot out-motivate constant negativity. You cannot outgrow a space that punishes ambition. But when you place yourself in an environment that supports your goals, progress accelerates, confidence increases, discipline becomes easier, growth becomes natural. Your environment is always shaping you. The question is whether it is shaping you in the direction you want to go. This chapter is your reminder that you are not just a product of your choices. You are also a product of the space around you. Choose that space wisely, shape it with intention, and surround yourself with the energy that matches the life you want. When you change your environment, you change your trajectory. Chapter 9. The Power of Skills. Skills are the great equalizer. They do not care where you were born. They do not care about your past. They do not care about your age or your background. Skills reward effort, not excuses. And in a world where most people stay average, skills are what separate those who move forward from those who stay stuck. Many people believe they need confidence before they take action. But the truth is different. Confidence is not the starting point. Confidence is the result of skill. The more skilled you become, the braver you feel. The more skilled you become, the more opportunities open. The more skilled you become, the more control you gain over your life. Skills build freedom. Let's begin with a simple story. A woman works a basic job that barely pays her bills. She feels trapped. She feels stuck in the same cycle every month. But one day, she learns about digital design. She practices for 10 minutes a day, then 15, then 30. Within a few months, she begins doing small projects. Within a year, she earns more money from her skill than from her original job. Nothing magical happened. She simply built a skill that changed her direction. Skills can transform your life because they raise your value. When your value rises, the world responds differently. People trust you more. People seek you out. People pay you more. Not because of luck, but because you bring something useful to the table. This is something many people never understand. They think success relies on personality, or charisma, or natural talent. But long-term success is built on one thing: capability. And capability comes from skill. Now think about people who feel stuck. They often blame their circumstances. They blame the economy. They blame their employer. They blame their lack of connections. But underneath all of that is a simpler truth. They have not built skills that create new possibilities. The moment you invest in skill development, your life changes direction. Why? Because skills compound. Every new skill makes the next one easier. Every new skill gives you more tools to solve problems. Every new skill increases your confidence in facing challenges. There is a powerful real-world example of this. A man works in customer service. He feels burned out. He feels invisible. He wants to grow but does not know how. So he starts learning communication techniques. He practices handling difficult conversations. He studies conflict resolution. He improves his voice tone, his clarity, and his listening skills. Soon, his manager notices. He gets promoted. Later he learns basic leadership skills, then project management skills. He continues learning, and his life transforms, all because he understood that skill is leverage. Skills turn effort into opportunity. Most people avoid learning new skills because they think it takes too long. But time will pass whether you learn or not. 1 year from now, you could have a new skill, or you could have the same complaints. The difference lies in what you decide to do today. Another common belief is that skills require talent. But talent is overrated. Consistency is what wins. The person who practices a little each day will always outperform the person who waits for the perfect moment to start. Skill development is a simple formula. Small effort repeated consistently creates mastery. Let's explore 3 kinds of skills that change lives. First, technical skills. These include programming, design, writing, analytics, editing, and more. Technical skills give you economic power. They help you earn more. They create new career paths. They give you independence and flexibility. Second, social skills. These include communication, negotiation, leadership, empathy, and teamwork. Social skills help you build relationships. They help you connect. They help you influence and inspire. Many opportunities come not from what you know, but from how well you communicate what you know. Third, personal skills. These include time management, discipline, focus, resilience, and problem solving. Personal skills strengthen your inner world. They help you stay steady when life becomes difficult. They help you stay consistent when motivation fades. People with strong personal skills outperform people with natural talent every time, because personal skills shape behavior, and behavior shapes outcomes. To grow your skills, you need a simple system. Start with curiosity. Ask yourself, what is one skill that could improve my life? The answer may surprise you. Sometimes it is a skill related to your career. Sometimes it is a skill related to your relationships. Sometimes it is a skill related to your mindset. Begin with small steps. You do not need hours of practice each day. 10 minutes is enough. Consistency matters more than intensity. Small daily actions create large long-term changes. Seek feedback. Feedback speeds up improvement. It reveals blind spots. It sharpens technique. You do not need criticism. You need correction. Use your skills as soon as possible. Application builds confidence. Practice without use remains theory. The moment you apply a skill, it strengthens your identity. There is another insight you must understand. Skills protect you from uncertainty. Jobs can disappear. Industries can collapse. Economies can shift. But skills stay with you. Skills move with you. Skills open new doors when old ones close. Skills are the foundation of a powerful life, because they give you choice. Choice in how you work. Choice in how you live. Choice in the direction you take. You do not need dozens of skills to rise above average. You need a few important ones practiced well. One strong skill can lift you out of struggle. 2 strong skills can build stability. 3 strong skills can change your destiny. The average person never realizes this. They stay average because they never commit to growing their capabilities. They wait for opportunity instead of preparing for it. They wait for confidence instead of building it. They wait for change instead of creating it. But you are not average. You are someone who can grow. You are someone who can learn. You are someone who can build the skills that shape a better life. This chapter is your reminder that skills are power. Develop them intentionally. Practice them consistently. Use them boldly. And watch your world expand with every step you take. Chapter 10. Taking ownership. There is a turning point in every person's life. A moment when they stop blaming circumstances and start claiming responsibility. A moment when they stop waiting for someone to save them and decide to save themselves. This shift is called ownership, and it is one of the most powerful forces behind a successful life. Ownership is not about perfection. It is not about controlling everything. It is about accepting that your choices shape your path. It is about realizing that no matter what has happened in your past, your future remains in your hands. Most people never reach this point. They live in a state of quiet blame. Blame feels comfortable. It offers protection. It gives you a story that explains why you are stuck. It's the economy. It's my parents. It's my environment. It's my luck. Blame may feel comforting, but it takes your power away. It keeps your life in someone else's hands. Ownership gives that power back to you. To understand ownership, look at this story. A young employee struggles at work. He misses deadlines. He feels overwhelmed. He believes he is unlucky because his co-workers seem more talented. One day his manager tells him something simple. You do not need luck. You need accountability. At first he feels offended, but later he realizes the manager was right. He was waiting for things to get easier. He was waiting for motivation to appear. He was waiting for others to fix problems for him. Once he accepted responsibility for his results, everything changed. He improved his planning. He asked for help when needed. He worked on his weaknesses instead of hiding them. Within a year he became one of the strongest performers in the team. The turning point was not talent or opportunity. It was ownership. Ownership transforms your life, because it places you in the driver's seat. You stop reacting. You start directing. You stop saying I can't, and start asking how can I. This shift creates clarity. When you take ownership, excuses lose their power. You begin to see what needs to be improved. You begin to see where your effort is lacking. You begin to see where your discipline needs to grow. There is an important truth about ownership. It is not about fault. It is about response. You may not be at fault for every difficulty in your life, but you are responsible for how you respond to it. You are responsible for your choices, your attitude, and the direction you take next. Think about someone who loses a job. One person blames the company. He blames the economy. He blames unfair treatment. He stays stuck because blame gives him no path forward. Another person feels the same pain but chooses ownership. She asks, what can I learn from this? What skill can I build now? What opportunity can I create for myself? She moves forward because she focuses on her response, not her resentment. Ownership turns setbacks into opportunities. Ownership turns problems into lessons. Ownership turns weakness into strength. Another example comes from health. Many people blame genetics or environment for their condition. But ownership means saying, I cannot change my past, but I can change my habits today. A person who takes ownership begins to eat better. They walk more. They learn about nutrition. They make small adjustments that compound into meaningful change. Ownership gives direction where blame gives despair. Ownership is also essential in relationships. Some people blame their partner for every issue. They say, they never listen. They never support me. They never understand. But relationships improve only when both people take responsibility for the energy they bring into the space. Ownership means asking, how can I communicate better? How can I bring more patience? How can I contribute to a healthier connection? It is not about taking the blame. It is about taking initiative. Ownership requires honesty. You must be willing to see where you fall short. You must admit your weaknesses. You must acknowledge the habits that hold you back. This honesty is uncomfortable, but it is also liberating. Because once you see the truth, you can change it. Without ownership, change is impossible. With ownership, change is inevitable. The discipline gap, the identity loop, and the environment effect. All these concepts connect to ownership. If you do not own your identity, someone else will shape it. If you do not own your habits, your emotions will control them. If you do not own your environment, it will influence you in ways you do not see. Ownership puts you at the center of your life. You move from reacting to creating. You move from drifting to directing. You move from hoping to building. To build ownership, start with 3 simple practices. First, stop blaming. Remove phrases like, it's not my fault or there's nothing I can do. These thoughts keep you powerless. Replace them with, what can I do now? Second, take responsibility for small things. Pick up after yourself. Keep your promises. Finish what you start. These small acts strengthen the ownership mindset. Third, choose accountability partners. Not people who judge you, but people who expect the best from you. Accountability helps you grow faster, because it gives you structure and support. Remember, this ownership is not a burden. It is freedom. It means you are no longer waiting for a better life. You are building one with your decisions. The people who rise above average do not wait for luck. They do not wait for perfect conditions. They do not wait for someone to give them permission. They take ownership of their life and move forward with intention. This chapter is your reminder that your future does not depend on what has happened to you. It depends on what you decide to do next. Choose ownership, claim your power, and create the life you were meant to live. Chapter 11. The Path of Small Wins. Most people imagine transformation as a dramatic event, a sudden breakthrough, a powerful moment, a big decision that changes everything. But real change rarely works that way. Real change is built on small, steady wins. Small wins that look insignificant on the surface, yet shape your entire direction over time. Small wins do not impress others. They do not bring applause. They do not create instant success. But they create momentum. And momentum is more powerful than motivation. To understand this, picture a man trying to push a heavy car. At first the car does not move. He pushes hard, but nothing happens. Then he tries again. Still nothing, but he keeps pushing. Finally, the wheels begin to turn. Just a little, then a little more. Once the car is moving, it becomes easier to keep it going. The hardest part was the beginning. This is how small wins work. They get the wheels turning. Many people stay average because they expect immediate results. They want fast progress. They want quick success. They want visible change. When progress feels slow, they stop. They think their effort is not working. They think they are not improving. They think they are wasting time. But they do not realize something important. Small wins compound. Growth that looks invisible today becomes impossible to ignore later. Let's explore a story that shows this clearly. A young woman wants to become a writer. At first she tries to write for an hour a day, but she struggles. She gets overwhelmed. She feels discouraged. She quits after a few weeks. Later she tries a different approach. She writes 1 paragraph a day. Some days it takes her 2 minutes. Some days it takes her 10. But she stays consistent. After a month she has several pages. After a year, she has her first book draft. Not because she worked in large bursts, but because she committed to small wins. Small wins create identity. Each small action says, I am someone who shows up. Each small action says, I am someone who finishes what I start. Each small action says, I am building something meaningful. Small wins also reduce resistance. When the step is small, the mind does not panic. It does not feel overwhelmed. It does not try to avoid the task. Small steps bypass fear and silence excuses. Imagine someone who wants to get healthier. If they focus on losing a large amount of weight, they feel pressured. They feel anxious. They feel discouraged. But if they focus on drinking more water today, or walking for 10 minutes, or choosing one healthier meal, the process feels manageable. These small wins accumulate. They shape habits. They increase confidence. And slowly they create major results. The same is true in finances. Saving a large amount of money feels intimidating. But saving a small amount regularly builds the saving habit. Soon the small deposits become significant. What once felt impossible becomes normal. Small wins are also the secret behind discipline. Most people struggle with discipline because they try to change too much at once. They set goals that require sudden dramatic effort. And when they fail to maintain that effort, they give up. But when discipline begins with small, achievable steps, consistency becomes natural. The person starts to feel capable. They start to build trust in themselves. And that trust fuels bigger actions. This is why coaches, leaders, and successful individuals all repeat the same message in different forms. Focus on daily improvement. Just show up. One step at a time. They say this not because it sounds inspirational, but because it works. Let's examine another example. Two students prepare for an important exam. The first student studies only when he feels motivated. He tries to study for long sessions. Some days he studies for hours. Some days he does nothing. His progress is inconsistent. The second student studies for 20 minutes every day. Just 20 minutes. It seems small. It seems simple. But she never misses a day. By the end of the year she has studied more hours than the first student. She remembers more. She understands more. She performs better. Her success is not luck. It is the power of small wins. Small wins build momentum. And momentum builds confidence. Confidence fuels bigger action. And big action leads to the transformation people dream about. There is another important benefit of small wins. They make progress enjoyable. Large goals create pressure. Small wins create satisfaction. Each small win gives your brain a hit of encouragement. It says, you are moving forward. This feeling keeps you consistent. Small wins also help you recover faster when you fall off track. If your goal is small, restarting feels easy. There is no guilt. There is no shame. It is simple to begin again. This is why small wins are essential for long-term success. They make progress sustainable. To build the path of small wins, you can use 3 simple practices. First, break big goals into tiny actions. If you want to write a book, write 1 paragraph per day. If you want to learn a skill, practice for 10 minutes. If you want to get fit, start with a short walk. The action does not need to be impressive. It only needs to be consistent. Second, track your wins. A small checklist, a journal entry, a note on your phone. Tracking your wins helps you see progress that your emotions might ignore. It reinforces your identity as someone who takes action. Third, celebrate small progress. Not with big rewards, with recognition. Tell yourself, I did what I said I would do today. This creates a positive internal loop that strengthens motivation over time. You must understand something important. Small wins do not stay small. Like compound interest, they grow in the background. They build skill. They build confidence. They build opportunity. They build a new life. The people who rise above average are not always the ones who make bold moves. Often they are the ones who make steady moves. They show up daily. They improve gradually. They stay patient while others chase shortcuts. In the end, small wins lead to big transformations. Small wins shape your identity. Small wins build your habits. Small wins create your future. This chapter is your reminder that your next level does not start with a giant leap. It starts with one small step repeated again and again. Commit to your small wins and they will carry you far beyond the limits of the average life. Chapter 12. Designing a life plan. Most people drift through life without direction. They wake up, go to work, handle responsibilities, and repeat the same cycle until months and years pass. They move, but they do not move with purpose. They act, but they do not act with intention. They live, but they do not design their life. A life without a plan does not stay still. It slowly drifts toward frustration, confusion, and regret. A life with a plan moves toward clarity and momentum. Designing a life plan is not about controlling every detail. It is about choosing your direction. It is about defining what matters to you. It is about building a future with intention instead of chance. To understand the power of a life plan, imagine two people traveling across the country. The first gets in his car without a map. He drives and hopes he will somehow reach the right place. He makes turns based on impulse. He guesses. He reacts. Sometimes he ends up on the right road, but most of the time he ends up lost and frustrated. The second person studies the route. He knows the destination. He knows the stops along the way. He knows where he must turn, and what obstacles he might face. He still makes adjustments, but he always moves forward with purpose. Both people are driving, but only one knows where he is going. This is the difference between living with a plan and living without one. A life plan gives direction. Direction creates confidence. Confidence creates action. Action creates progress. The mistake many people make is believing that a life plan must be complicated. It does not. A life plan must be clear. Clear enough to guide your decisions. Clear enough to keep you focused. Clear enough to remind you who you are becoming. Let's break the process into simple practical steps that work for real life. Step 1. Define your vision. Your vision is the big picture. It is the life you want to experience. Not just the achievements, not just the goals, but the feeling of your future life. Ask yourself questions like, what kind of person do I want to become? How do I want to feel when I wake up each morning? What kind of work gives me energy? What kind of relationships strengthen me? What does a meaningful life look like for me? Your vision should feel inspiring, but also natural. It should feel like a place where the best version of you can live. Step 2. Identify your core values. Your core values are the standards that shape your behavior. They guide your choices. They protect your priorities. They help you stay true to yourself. Most people never identify their values. They live according to the expectations of others. This leads to conflict and confusion. When you know your values such as honesty, health, growth, creativity or contribution, your decisions become easier. You simply ask, does this align with my values? If the answer is yes, move forward. If the answer is no, step back. Step 3. Choose your pillars. Your life plan should be supported by a few essential pillars. These are the main areas of life that matter most. For most people, the pillars include health, your physical and mental well-being, skills, your personal growth and capability, work, your career or mission, relationships, family, friends, and meaningful connections, finance, how you manage and grow your resources, purpose, the deeper meaning behind your actions. You do not need to perfect every pillar at once, but you must recognize them. A life plan collapses when a pillar is ignored for too long. Step 4. Set clear, simple goals. Goals are the milestones on your journey. They turn your vision into action. But goals must be specific and manageable. Instead of saying, I want to get healthy, say I will walk for 15 minutes every day. Instead of saying, I want to earn more money, say I will build one new skill this year. Instead of saying, I want better relationships, say I will reach out to someone I care about twice a week. Small, clear goals are easier to follow and easier to repeat. They build habits, and habits build your future. Step 5. Create systems that support you. A goal without a system depends on motivation. A system makes progress automatic. A system could be a morning routine that sets your tone, a weekly review that keeps you aligned, a schedule that protects your priorities, a workspace that keeps you focused, a support group that holds you accountable. Your system should make progress easier, not harder. Step 6. Review and adjust. A life plan is not permanent. It grows as you grow. It shifts as you shift. It evolves as your values evolve. Every few months ask yourself, what is working? What is not working? What needs to change? Do not fear adjustments. A flexible plan is stronger than a rigid one. Step 7. Live with intent. A life plan has power only when it shapes your daily behavior. You do not need dramatic changes. You need intentional steps. 5 minutes of planning. 10 minutes of learning. 1 meaningful conversation. 1 small healthy choice. 1 responsible decision. These small moments add up. They move you closer to the life you designed, not the life you drift into. Designing a life plan is one of the greatest acts of self-respect. It says my life matters enough for me to guide it. It says I choose my direction instead of leaving it to chance. It says I am creating the future, not just surviving the present. The people who rise above average are not always the smartest or the luckiest. They are the ones who live intentionally. They know where they are going. They know what they value. They know what their next step is. This chapter is your invitation to design your life instead of letting life design you. Start with clarity. Move with intention. Build your structure. And shape a future that reflects your highest potential. Chapter 13. Escaping the Trap. Escaping the trap of average is not a single moment. It is a series of choices. It is a shift in mindset. It is a commitment to rise. Even when rising feels uncomfortable, most people stay stuck because they never realize they are inside a trap. They do not see the routines holding them back. They do not see the beliefs limiting their progress. They do not see how their habits quietly pull them toward an average life. But once you see the trap, you can break it. Escaping the trap begins with awareness. Awareness opens the door. Action walks you through it. To understand this process deeply, imagine a man standing in a small room with no windows. He thinks the room is the entire world. He thinks this is all he can expect. But one day he notices a door he has never seen before. It has been there the whole time, but he never looked closely enough to see it. When he turns the handle, he enters a hallway filled with light. Beyond the hallway are more rooms, more opportunities, and more paths than he ever imagined. The trap of average works the same way. It hides the door until you become aware. But once you see that door, once you recognize your limitations and routines, you begin to move. You begin to grow. You begin to escape. Let's break the escape process into clear, practical steps. Step 1. Confront your patterns. You cannot escape what you refuse to see. Average does not come from weakness. It comes from unexamined habits. Ask yourself, what do I do every day that keeps me where I am? What patterns repeat themselves in my life? What choices feel comfortable but create no progress? These questions bring clarity. Clarity breaks denial. Denial keeps you trapped. Step 2. Challenge your beliefs. Every trap has a story behind it. A story you repeat so often that it begins to feel true. I am not ready. I am not capable. I am too old. I do not have support. These stories shape your behavior, even if they have no truth behind them. You escape the trap by replacing these limiting beliefs with empowering ones. I am capable of learning. I can grow through practice. I can start small. I can design my future. Your beliefs are the blueprint of your actions. Change the blueprint and the structure of your life begins to shift. Step 3. Choose one direction. People stay stuck when they try to change everything at once. Escape begins with focus. Choose one meaningful direction. Not 10. Just one. It could be your health. It could be a new skill. It could be your finances. It could be a new opportunity you keep avoiding. The trap loses its power when you choose a path and commit to it. Step 4. Build micro-momentum. Big goals feel overwhelming. Small steps feel manageable. Micro-momentum is the practice of doing one small meaningful action each day. Just one. Something so simple you cannot avoid it. A 5-minute practice. A short walk. A small lesson. A tiny habit. These actions may seem insignificant, but they build identity. And when your identity begins to evolve, the trap begins to crack. Step 5. Remove the anchors. An anchor is anything that holds you down. It could be a person who discourages you. It could be a habit that wastes your time. It could be an environment that normalizes average behavior. It could be a belief that keeps you small. Escaping the trap requires letting go of these anchors. Not all at once. Not dramatically, but deliberately. Remove one anchor, and you rise a little. Remove another, and you rise more. Eventually you feel lighter, stronger, and more free. Step 6. Create a new standard. Your life rises to the level of your standards. If your standards remain low, you fall back into the trap. But when you set a new standard, for how you treat yourself, for how you use your time, for how you think, for how you act, your life begins to rise with it. A new standard creates a new identity. A new identity creates new choices, and new choices break the old cycle. Step 7. Step into the unknown. Escaping the trap requires courage. Courage does not mean the absence of fear. Courage means moving forward, despite fear. The unknown looks intimidating. It always has. But the unknown is where growth lives. The unknown is where opportunity lives. The unknown is where the average life ends, and the meaningful life begins. Every strong person you admire had a moment when they stepped into something unfamiliar. They felt doubt. They felt fear. But they moved anyway. You can too. Step 8. Reinforce your identity through action. You do not escape the trap with a big declaration. You escape by proving to yourself through action that you are no longer the same person. Each time you make a strong choice, you strengthen the new identity. Each time you choose discipline over distraction, the trap loosens its grip. Each time you choose growth over comfort, you take another step toward freedom. Action is the language your identity listens to. Step 9. Surround yourself with growth energy. No one escapes alone. You need influences that elevate you. People who think bigger than you. People who expect more from themselves. People who live with purpose and direction. They lift your energy. They raise your standards. They reinforce your vision. The average circle keeps you average. The growth circle pulls you upward. Choose your environment as carefully as you choose your future. Step 10. Commit to the long game. Escaping the trap is not a one-time victory. It is a long-term commitment. A commitment to continuous improvement. A commitment to self-awareness. A commitment to discipline. A commitment to becoming the strongest version of yourself. There will be setbacks. There will be moments of doubt. But setbacks are not failure. They are reminders that you are rewriting a lifetime of habits and beliefs. Progress is not perfect. Progress is persistent. Escaping the trap means stepping out of autopilot and stepping into intention. It means choosing action over excuses. It means committing to the life you want rather than settling for the life you inherited. Average is not your destiny. It is only the default, and defaults can be changed. This chapter is your reminder that you have the power to rewrite your story. Turn the handle, open the door, step out of the trap, and into the life you were meant to build. Your new path begins the moment you choose it. Conclusion. The decision that changes everything. There comes a moment in every journey when the truth becomes clear. The truth that your life does not change because of information. It does not change because of motivation. It does not change because of luck. Your life changes because of one decisive choice. A choice to rise above your old patterns. A choice to stop living on autopilot. A choice to take responsibility for the direction of your future. This is the decision that changes everything. Throughout this book, you have uncovered the forces that keep most people average. The comfort that lulls them to sleep. The fear that holds them back. The illusion of time that convinces them to wait. The low standards that lower their life. The identity loop that locks them in place. The discipline gap that keeps them from progress. The environment that shapes their thinking. The lack of skills that limits their freedom. And the trap that many never escape, because they never recognize it. You now see what most people never see. You now understand what most people never consider. But knowledge alone will not lift you out of the trap. Only a decision will. A decision to live with intention. A decision to take ownership. A decision to honor your potential. A decision to rise even when rising feels challenging. Think about your life as a long road stretching ahead of you. At some point you reach a fork where two paths begin. One path is familiar. It is safe. It is predictable. It asks nothing new from you. It keeps you in the same circles, the same routines, the same identity. This is the path of average. It offers comfort but not growth. It offers routine but not fulfillment. It offers stability but not purpose. The other path is different. It is brighter but also uncertain. It opens new doors but it demands effort. It requires courage, discipline and clarity. It requires you to outgrow who you used to be. This is the path of growth, the path of responsibility, the path of transformation. Choosing this second path is the decision that changes everything. Many people never choose it, not because they lack potential, not because they lack desire, but because they never take the first step. They wait for the perfect moment. They wait for the fear to disappear. They wait for motivation to carry them forward. But perfect moments do not come. Fear does not vanish. Motivation does not last. What lasts is choice. What lasts is commitment. Once you choose your path, your identity begins to shift. You stop seeing yourself as someone who hopes things get better, and begin seeing yourself as someone who creates a better life. You stop waiting for opportunities and start preparing for them. You stop fearing failure, and start embracing growth. You stop surviving and start leading your life with intention. This shift happens quietly, but its effects reach every corner of your life. Your mindset changes. Your habits change. Your environment changes. Your standards rise. Your confidence grows. And slowly the gap between who you are and who you want to be begins to close. The people who create meaningful lives are not the ones with perfect circumstances. They are the ones who make the decision and keep making it. They choose action over delay. They choose courage over fear. They choose discipline over distraction. And they choose growth over comfort. You now stand at the same crossroads. The question is simple. Will you drift, or will you decide? Your future does not rise from luck. It rises from direction. It rises from clarity. It rises from the daily steps you take after making the decision to change. If you decide to rise, you will not rise instantly. You will rise gradually. You will rise through small wins, consistent effort, and intentional choices. You will rise by showing up when no one is watching. You will rise by honoring your potential, even on the days you doubt yourself. The decision that changes everything is the decision to no longer accept an average life. It is the decision to step into the life you are capable of living. Not someday. Not when things calm down. Not when circumstances are perfect. But now. Here. In this moment. Your story is still being written. And this is the moment where the plot changes. This is the moment where the old chapter ends and the new one begins. Choose growth. Choose direction. Choose discipline. Choose your higher self. Choose the life that reflects your true potential. The trap of average loses all its power. The moment you decide to rise. This is your moment. This is your decision. This is the beginning of everything.